What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk a little bit about Saints Row and this almost story in the making. This is actually the guy that we're going to talk about in this video. He's the guy that talked about GTA 6 kind of deserving to be $100. I made a video on it a couple weeks ago on Podcast Now, and same guy, so I'm not a huge fan of that take, but you know what? Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And this is a guy that was actually behind, or one of the people behind the original Saints Row. And turns out, as part of that same interview, everybody, including myself, looked at that GTA part. This guy actually was incredibly critical, let's say, of that Saints Row reboot. So the first thing I was thinking is, okay, this guy wants to bring back Saints Row, right? That's kind of the long and short of it. He wants to bring it back, and now he's been asked to pitch his version of Saints Row. So things I think are getting more real. In the interview, the GTA thing that came out of it, right? He had actually said in that interview, hey, if you're listening, like, let me pitch you something. I got an idea. I can get a lot of the original people back, and I could do it for a small budget, and I can turn the franchise around. Quite confident. You know, I like that kind of confidence. And now, fast forward a couple of weeks, he literally was asked to do it. So I feel like that at least means that there's a little desire. And honestly, it probably is because of, well, Saints Row just as a franchise had always done quite well, except for the last one. And then you have GTA 6, coming out in a matter of months, and you know that thing's going to be, the biggest thing of all time. And there's going to be a want for games that are close to it, but not quite the same thing, right? Which Saints Row can do, in the best of cases. But again, the first thing I thought of was, well, oh God, please don't tell me this guy had anything to do with the Saints Row reboot. And he didn't. He actually called somebody, I think, that was working on it and like went into him or leaned into him, right? It was like, well, why are you rebooting it? Why is that even a thing? Like, all of these things you're doing to it, it's not even Saints Row anymore. See, that's a point that I'm really, really glad I got to see that he said, right? Because that kind of tells me that you get it, right? When you can accurately look at the thing and say, this isn't Saints Row. And I think he even said, why don't you call it something else, not even Saints Row? And it's like, okay, this guy gets it. This guy has not been around since Saints Row 1. So this guy's name, by the way, Chris Stockman. He originally was the original design director for just Saints Row. Now, he left after Saints Row 1. So a thing to keep in mind, I would say, okay, to be fair to everybody involved, I don't know if Saints Row became kind of what it is until a little bit later on. Like, you could argue, Saints Row 1 started it, and I think it's a pretty good game, but you could probably argue the future games really rounded out its identity and kind of made it like, a franchise that could do quite well, right? So, it's a guy that was around in the very beginning. It's a guy that I think can and does understand it, at least to a degree. And to be honest with you, that last point, that's better than anybody who worked on the last game. So kind of closing thoughts, I'm for it. I'm for, look, because kind of where we're at right now is simply they are just hearing a pitch. Now, what they do with that pitch, they can say yes, they can say no, right? Like, it's not rocket science. But what I would say is at least, hearing a pitch, because oftentimes, right, they won't even hear a pitch. I think maybe like Alice Madness, that franchise, they wouldn't even let the guy, he wrote a whole freaking Bible for the third Alice game, and they might have heard him out, but they said no. But like, oftentimes you won't even get a pitch, right? Or the pitch will just be a very short thing. So I think just the fact that they're willing to hear it means that there is a desire to bring Saints Row back. Because, you know what I mean? If this guy is kind of gloating, or, I would say gloating, right? Well, he's kind of pumping himself up. He's like, hey, I can do it. I can, turn this franchise around. Oh, and by the way, the last game sucked. I actually kind of think it takes a lot of guts as the, the owners of the property to say, all right, well, let us hear what you got. Because what you could easily do is just not listen to him, right? Say, oh, that guy's a loser. Why is he, saying stuff about us on social media? No, I think it actually takes a lot of, guts to say, or to own up to it in even just the smallest way and say, all right, like, let's hear him out. Does he actually have a way we could bring this franchise back? That at least shows that they're somewhat, moving in that direction. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.